Okay, so hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk about media and information disorder, which will serve as my individual PIT for this subject, which is media and information literacy. So first of all, I would like to introduce myself first. My name is John Adrian Esbuyo, and I'm from grade 11 Love. So here is our outline for today's presentation. First, we'll discuss the objectives. Then we're gonna followed by the different types of media and information disorder, which are the three types: misinformation, malinformation, and disinformation. And then followed by the examples of misinformation, and followed that we will discuss on why is it misinformation and why is it considered fake news. Next up is we're going to discuss the second type of fake news, which is malinformation, and then we're still going to discuss on why is it considered malinformation and why is it still also considered fake news. And lastly, for the last type is disinformation. We will discuss examples of it, and we will also talk about why is it called as disinformation and why is it also considered fake news. So for our main objective is to explain media and information disorder and demonstrate how to identify false or misleading information. So as what I've mentioned earlier, there are three different types of media and information disorder, which is misinformation, malinformation, and disinformation. But what do they actually mean? So, first, we have misinformation, obviously, which is false information shared by mistake. So, what it means is that it's basically fake news itself. And next, we have malinformation, which is false information shared on purpose to deceive. So, it's basically someone is sending you misinformation because they believe it is real. And lastly, is disinformation, which is real information that is shared to hurt or harm someone. But under these categories, there are also different types. First, we have satire or parody, jokes or comedy stories that are mistaken as real news. Clickbait, exaggerated headlines made to get attention and clicks. Propaganda, biased information used to influence opinions or politics. Fabricated content, completely made up stories presented as true. Misleading content, information twisted to confuse people. False context, real photos or news used with the wrong context or time. Imposter content, fake accounts or websites pretending to be trusted sources. And lastly, manipulated content, edited photos, videos, or audio that obviously change the truth. So, next, we will now discuss misinformation. So, for my first example of misinformation, I've got this post here on Facebook from UNICEF itself. Because if you look behind the text saying these are not from UNICEF, there are like around 8 advisories from UNICEF themselves. But where is it actually from? It's actually from chat apps, messaging apps. So they thought that UNICEF made these advisories and posted them on chat apps. And then, so they instead followed it because it's from UNICEF itself, so they thought it was real. Next is also this example, which is a false post regarding about the Philippine economy and the cases of COVID-19. So I will explain that later in the presentation. And lastly, I have this example, which is the Marcos health controversy. So this happened in around 2025, I suppose. And it's basically, there were people saying that the president, Bongbong Marcos, is saying that, they're saying that um he has been ill, like he's been bedridden. Exactly, so he's been bedridden. So they thought he has a bad health condition. So I'll discuss that later on. So with all these examples I've gotten, it's now time I should be discussing them. So let's go back to the UNICEF post. Remember what I said that there are advisories, like around 8 advisories. So so here's a reason on why it is considered disinformation and fake news itself. One, UNICEF has stated that they will never issue these types of advisories in chat apps. So they said that they will never do this type of stuff in chat apps or any other social media, and they will just be posting advisories in their official website, I suppose. Next, they used their logo without proper credit to try and get away with it. So if you see here, if you see here, they use the UNICEF logo without proper credit. So that is considered a violation to copyright because they used their logo without giving proper credit and they just fabricated these advisories with just false information. Next, they do this to give you a sudden urge of fear to try and get you to share the post and spread it. So, with these advisories, they force you to share the post so you can spread it to anyone, everyone on social media, physically your friends, to people you know, your family, and other people you may know. So if you found this post or this advice in any other chat apps, you suddenly feel the urge to be scared or to have a sense of fear to get, and it basically makes you share the post and spread it all across social media. And lastly, the source remained anonymous. And what does that mean? No source is fake news because without a source, where's the evidence in that? Why is it real when there's no source? Why should we believe on this when there is no source? So that's why it was considered fake news from UNICEF. I mean, UNICEF stated it was fake news because there was no source. They basically did not support this with evidence. So it remained anonymous and it's considered fake news moments later. So how do you get away with it? So I mean, okay, sorry for that. But next we have the Marcos Health controversy I'll be discussing. So the report next, first up, the reports circulating about the controversy online were entirely fabricated. So basically, all about this stuff were entirely fabricated from anonymous news reporters or some people, like from untrusted people. Next, posts say that he was bedridden all day, like what I mentioned earlier. But in reality, he was actively holding press briefings during that period. So President Bongbong Marcos was actively holding press briefings during that period, meaning he wasn't bedridden all day. He wasn't. Yes, he wasn't bedridden all day. Lastly, sources from chismis. So people often support the evidence by saying stuff like, "Oh, my relative who works at the hospital said that Marcos was bedridden in the hospital." No, that's actually not true, because why would you believe your relative when there's no evidence supporting it? Because there are no articles saying it yet. So you can't just believe from your relative itself because your relative experienced it, and that doesn't mean that it's true still. But there's still more other stuff like that because there could be responses like that and so on. So to to minimize your exposure to misinformation, there are I have put here demonstrative analysis. So with this video, this is a feature on only the devices released in 2024 or newer, which is Circle to Search, powered by Google. But if you don't have that feature, you have Google Lens, which you can take a picture of the post and you need to search it from themselves. Who discussed this? Basically, we've learned this from Jeff Canoy's video on reverse image search. So basically, the procedures I placed are all about reverse image search. So if you have that kind of feature, you may use it to identify if it's fake news or not. And that is all for misinformation. So for the next type, we have malinformation. So, for my first example of malinformation, I have this post saying that bananas can prevent COVID 19. So, let me ask you something. Can bananas prevent COVID 19? Is it a cure to COVID 19 back in the pandemic? I'll give you like 5 seconds to think. Okay, so What do you think? Is it true or false? We'll get to that later. And for my next example, I have this public advisory from Comelec saying that no national ID, that means you cannot vote. So if you don't have a national ID, it means that you can't vote. So meaning that they have mandated one ID, and if people doesn't have that ID, they can't vote, or if they don't have that kind of ID, they can't vote. So why? And there's even a context right here that please inform your family as soon as possible. But why is it actually considered malinformation? So let's discuss. First, we have this post, of course, that bananas can prevent COVID-19. Firstly, there is no scientific evidence studies related to that rumor, according to the World Health Organization. So basically, they think that bananas can prevent COVID-19, but in reality, there is no scientific evidence that relate to that rumor. Because how would we believe it when there's still no evidence or research about it? Next, there are several deepfake videos talking about that rumor. So if you research that kind of stuff, there have been several deepfake videos talking about that bananas can prevent COVID-19. But since that was during the pandemic, these videos might have been taken down already since it has been like 6 years ago. Next, fake claims are used to support evidence. So with this, they use fake claims to support the evidence. So basically, the evidence is not real, the source is also not real. So they do this by using universities to mention that the cure has been found there. Like example, the University of Queensland in Australia, if we go international, but if we go local, they could use universities like DLSU, ADMU, UP Diliman, and other stuff. So they use it to support the evidence temporarily until they finally get exposed that it's fake news. And lastly, it is actually a real public health threat to the pandemic, at least back in the pandemic. It's actually a health threat since it's still not confirmed by the World Health Organization yet. So, with this, okay, with this, it's if you see this post and you try it, please don't try it because it's still a health threat even when the pandemic is over. But since it's already debunked, that means that no one has tried it now. And so basically, with this, okay, with bananas, if you try this on yourself, you'd just be stupid. Because if you actually tried it, you're just stupid. Like now, if you tried it right now, what are you even doing? Like, what are you even doing to yourself? This is obviously fake because there is still no cure to COVID 19 back then. There was never a cure, there's just treatment. Okay. So for the next example, there is a what I mentioned, this common like advisory saying that no national ID is no vote. So why is this malformation? Comelec themselves has officially flagged that advisory as false. So with this, you should be lucky that they didn't require national IDs to vote. So because Comelec already said that it's false. Next, the Philippine election laws do not restrict voter registration. So there are no restrictions to voter registration except for age requirements. Because why? Because mandating only one ID would disenfranchise millions of legitimate and honest voters who may not have received that kind of ID yet. So if Kamalek were to like if Kamalek were to mandate like one ID to vote, like national ID, your fill of ID, your passport, that would just you would just lose millions of voters because you're mandating an ID that people may have not received that yet, or that people can't get that kind of ID yet. Because if you do that, who's gonna vote? There's nobody to vote. There's gonna be only like a few people to vote because you have mandated an ID. You mandated an ID to let them vote. If you're gonna mandate that, like the national ID, if you're gonna mandate that, then only a few people is gonna vote because half of the people don't have that kind of ID yet. So that's why it's considered That's why they don't restrict that and only required like I think I don't know if they require an ID right now, but I swear they do not have an ID requirement yet. And of course, multiple valid IDs are accepted. See? That's what I mean. That multiple valid IDs are accepted. Because if we're just gonna mandate one, we're gonna lose millions, of course. So we should always accept multiple valid IDs, like national ID, fill of ID, your social security system ID, and other stuff, basically. Or even your driver's license. It's also a government ID. Whew, okay, have so let's recall on this information. So okay, wait 1 second. So, okay, no, never mind. Okay. So, if you recall on misinformation, I've showed posts like the Marcos health controversy and the COVID-19 stuff. And for malinformation, I've discussed about how bananas can cure COVID-19 and no national ID, no vote stuff. So, you may have already learned on what it could cost if you have listened to this discussion. So, with all due respect, I will now proceed to the last type of fake news, which is disinformation. So, for my first example of disinformation, I have this video right here of Senator Vince Dizon saying, I mean, no, this is not a video actually, this is just a picture, but on that post is a video of Senator Vince Dizon saying that he will be banning e-commerce platforms like Lazada, Shopee, TikTok Shop, and Facebook Marketplace. So, but why is he actually banning that? Do you think it's real or not? That's where we're gonna find out later. For my next example is where a foreign actor was seen actually behind the deepfake of President Bongbong Marcos. So with this, there was actually a scenario where a deepfake was spread all across about President Bongbong Marcos, and the audio was actually wait, we'll discuss that later, but there was actually a deepfake about him spreading all across locally about but we will debunk that later on. And lastly, we have VP Sara Duterte saying that there were people saying that she threw a laptop, but with this quote, she actually stated that she never threw a laptop because she was into technology or she wasn't a tech savvy. But we will go deeper into that in we will go deeper later in the discussion. So let's go back to the first about Senator Vince Dizon. So why is this information? Because the video used a deepfake of Diesel's voice saying stuff like, "We are ordering a shutdown. If they do not shut down, we will file charges." So it was a deepfake. It was a fake voice. It was like an AI voice of him saying that we're gonna shut down the e-commerce platforms like Lazada, Shopee, TikTok Shop, Facebook Marketplace, and so on. If they do not file a shutdown, we will do it ourselves. So they will file charges. Next, this actually caused economic fears to online sellers and writers. So when they see this post, it caused them to actually have the sudden urge of fear. So they were like contemplating and stuff. They were contemplating because it was from Vince Dizon himself, Senator Vince Dizon to be exact, saying that they're gonna shut down the e-commerce platforms. So when they saw that post, they were just shocked because it was from him. They didn't have that kind of literacy yet because online sellers they might have been old, so they might have not they may not have that kind of information literacy yet. So that's why it's important to have information literacy. And next, moments later, the DOTR clarified that they are actually not shutting down e-commerce platforms. So they have clarified that the video about the deepfake of Senator Vince Dizon is actually fake news. Then it was a deepfake of disinformation, and they have decided they have to clarify that they're not shutting down because there are still some people that believe that kind of videos. For my for the next example, the deepfake The PCO has actually debunked the deepfake as soon as it circulated on YouTube and other platforms. So the PCO, when they saw the deepfake, they have decided to debunk it because they didn't want to cause more problems to that because it's from the president, and there are still some people out there that don't have that kind of media and information literacy. Yeah, I have to drop that. I have to say the title because if they do not have that kind of literacy, they would have to believe it. And what would lead to that? Malinformation. So I chose to I chose this as disinformation is because it's a deepfake, and it's a deepfake and it is used to hurt or harm anyone, like President Bongbong Marcos himself. And also, if you don't know what PCO means, it's the Presidential Communications Office. Next, it was identified as AI generated in the first place, according to cybercrime investigators. So when the PCO saw this, they decided to get some cybercrime investigators to debunk the deepfake to to clarify everyone that it's AI generated in the first place. So that's to show how good they are to take action when it comes to situations like these. And lastly, according to the DICT, the deepfake was entirely based on a foreign actor, as said here, foreign actor, because it's actually not him. Since it's a deepfake, it's not President Bongbong Marcos itself. It's actually a foreign actor. It's a foreign actor. So let's recall the demonstrative analysis on misinformation. If you do not want to expose yourself to these types of fake news, always check the sources and use some techniques like reverse image search and so on, as what I have mentioned earlier, as what I've mentioned slides ago. And lastly, we have VP Sara Duterte saying that she drew a laptop. So why is this disinformation? Because VP Sara Duterte herself has denied the rumors regarding that. So when she saw the rumors about that, she decided to take action that it's actually not her. So it was actually false. She wouldn't do that such a thing. So when that circulated, she decided to speak out of the truth so that people won't get mistaken. Next, she pointed out that she's actually not a tech woman or tech savvy, as what stated on the quote. She's actually not into technology, like you're into phones, computers, consoles, and stuff. She's actually not into that because she wasn't into technology in the first place, and she's the vice president after all. So, of course, she's gonna be focused into politics and not technology itself. But at least she has that kind of literacy. Next, there was absolutely no evidence to support the deepfake. There were no sources and so on. So they posted the deepfake, but there was actually no evidence. So to the people who have that kind of information literacy, they were able to identify that it was fake. So because there was no evidence and there's no source. Without source, it's fake news. With source, it's not because it's supporting the evidence. But the source has to be legitimate. It should be from an article, from a research paper, and other stuff that are legitimate and to the people who trust. And next, this information is actually common for Vice President Sara Duterte. It's actually common for her because of her impeachments back in 2026. Actually, this year, 2026. There's also last year, 2025, 24, 23. Actually, at the start of her position as vice president. So, it's actually common for her. So, she wouldn't be bothered by it because she had been experiencing this information for quite a while now. So, it's actually tough for her. She had to be dealing with this all day because it's a common thing for her now when when she does an impeachment, there's always gonna be disinformation spread around her. When she speaks out, there's also gonna be disinformation spread around her. So it's hard for her to cope with it because it's common for her already. So yeah, it's tough. It's tough. So now that you know, this information is common for her and to the others. Okay, so I feel like we have reached the end of my discussion. So let's recall first. Misinformation is false information shared to the public. Malinformation is false information shared to people you know, your friends, and other people you know. Disinformation is information that is shared to hurt anyone. So if you recall all of that, then you might have actually learned a lot, and you actually learned all the types of fake news, and you might be able to distinguish it every single time because you have listened throughout this discussion, and you have learned a lot for me to discuss when it comes to me discussing, and you might have learned a lot from me. So that ends my discussion here. That ends my discussion for today's presentation on media and information disorder. So I'll introduce myself once again. I am John Adrian Esbuyo from grade 11 Love, and this is me signing off for this presentation. Thank you.